Hello, you prickly piccolos. This is Corey with Shenron's Lair, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Set 10 Gotenks leader. So, as we get into the deck list, just be aware this is going to be on the pricier side of the spectrum. There's a lot of really good yellow cards that you kind of have to include whenever you're working with a yellow leader, so just be aware. Now, this is going to be our first real go at this leader. But if you are interested in seeing gameplay, we stream over on twitch.tv/Shenron's Lair every Tuesday and Thursday, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. So feel free to come check it out, and the list is probably going to change 3,000 times in order until we're finally finished and happy with it. But we also have a Discord, so if you're interested in just having fun Dragon Ball card game related conversations, seeing budget lists, whatever it is, find these deck lists that we post on these videos, feel free to go check out over there. The link will be down in the description. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at our leader. Alright, so on our front side we have Auto. Whenever this card attacks, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, then draw 1 card. And then Auto once per turn. If your opponent has 1 or more energy, whenever your opponent activates an extra card, draw 1 card. And then Awaken. Whenever your life is at 4 or less, you may switch up to 2 of your energy to active mode and flip this card over. On the backside, Auto. Whenever this card attacks, draw 1 card, and then Auto once per turn. Whenever your opponent activates an extra card, draw 1 card, then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest mode. Auto once per turn. Whenever you activate Union Fusion, this card gets plus 5,000 power and critical for the turn. So, for any of you who have been around for the Dragon Ball Super card game for quite some time, you're pretty familiar with the generic yellow leader. They're usually always pretty good. If you look back at the Mecha Freezes of the world, and even like the Broly BRs, I think Gotenks is probably going to fit into that kind of workaround. I think he's very similar to a Broly BR, maybe not quite as powerful, being able to tap things down and untap things on the backside, but being able to draw additional cards based off of extra cards is a really, really nice ability. So the list that we're going to be looking at, we're getting into more of the fusion aspect of the leader. Ultimately, that's probably, or maybe not even what you think is the best to go with this leader, and that's fine. There'll probably be different variations of this. I do like getting the most value out of that leader though, and getting that plus 5k in crit is really strong, plus several of the new Union cards I think are actually pretty strong. So let's go ahead and get into the actual list. So as you see, we are running a 2 different splits of our Unison cards, and I'll be entirely honest with you, I'm not super sold on how I want to go about the Unison cards with the new Set 10 set. So my concern is I'm not sure if running multiple Unison cards is the right way to go, but both these 2 yellow Unisons that we are running are both very powerful, so I feel like we need access to both of them in some way. These may end up changing, one may be cut, one may be increased, and all that kind of stuff, but just so you're aware before we get into that. So first up, we've got 2 Mechicabra Plotting Revival. He is a 4-drop, 4-spec yellow, 15k blocker, and then Auto once per turn. Whenever this card loses markers due to an opponent's attack, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest mode. Again, this tapping down stuff is really effective, especially on your opponent's turn, which we'll get into why that has more value to us a little bit later. And then for his +1 marker effect, he draws 1 card, then choose 1 of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier, and that card can't be switched to active mode until the end of your opponent's next turn. So really good effect. Use this on your turn, you tap something down, or something's tapped down, you keep it tapped down for a while, plus you get to draw a card, which is nice. And then for his big remove marker effect, so -4, activate main, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, gain control of it, and then switch it to active mode. That's always been a really good effect. So whether it's just getting maybe a pesky blocker out of the way, or your opponent has a big threat, you don't want to deal with it, you can take it. Or you're trying to go in for game, you can just take that big threat, and now you're going back into your opponent's face with it. So just really strong effects there. He is a little bit more on the pricey side, as he's 4-spec yellow, that's why we're only running 2. But his effect is still very powerful. All right, next up we've got Super Saiyan Gogeta Dynamic Unison. So he's a 2-spec yellow Unison, 15k power, permanent. If all of your energy is in rest mode, your mono yellow leader cards get plus 5,000 power during your opponent's turn. And then Auto once per turn. Whenever your opponent activates an extra card, add a marker to this card. For a +1 marker, you may choose 2 yellow cards in your hand and discard them. If you do, draw 2 cards. And then for -4 markers, during your opponent's next charge phase, your opponent can only switch up to 2 energy to active mode. So all things being equal, you're probably not going to be using this -4 effect super often, though it does have some relevant use cases. Typically, what we're really using this for is for the extra defense. So whenever all of your energy's tapped out, you get a plus 5k buff. And then being able to pitch 2, draw 2 to really cycle through the deck, get particular cards in the drop, and different things like that is a really, really strong effect. He's also able to continually add markers to him. The more your opponent negates or whatever it is, he's just getting more and more markers on him. Moving on into the battle cards. Running 4 Fearless Assault Krillin. This is just to help us kind of self-awaken, which we don't need a whole ton of self-awakening because our leader does that by himself. But sometimes being able to take 1 additional life for cheap can really kind of fix our numbers if we need to awaken at a certain point in the game, which is really nice. And I do prefer the Krillin over something like the Goku or anything like that because Krillin is a critical, which I prefer. Next up, we have 4 of the Great Ape Son Goku Saiyan Instincts. I don't think I really need to cover this card. Everyone knows what it does. But it has a lot of extra synergy with our Gogeta Unison card because we're able to just pitch it out of our hand, draw 2 cards, and then we can pay 2, draw 2 more cards. So there's a lot of really good value, a lot of really good synergy there. And then typically if you're running a deck right now, this is one of the cards. Like if you've got room, you kind of jam it in. All right, next up, we're going to go into our Goten and Trunks package, which we have several of these. But first up, we've got Trunks and Goten the Eager. Both of these have a very similar effect, so we'll kind of cover them both at the same time. They're 2 cost 1 yellow, 15Ks. And then activate main if your leader card is a yellow Gotenks Adolescence card, and you discard this card from your hand. Add up to 1 Yellow Sun Goten GT card with 15,000 power and an energy cost of 3 from your deck to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So Trunks the Eager goes and finds the Goten, and Goten the Eager goes and finds Trunks. He's pitching from the hand if you need one out of the deck, and so on and so forth. We're running a 4/4 line of those. And then moving on into Trunks and Goten Flash of Brilliance. These are 3 cost, 1 yellow, 15Ks. Activate man if your leader card is a yellow Gotenks Adolescence card, and you choose 1 yellow card in your hand and discard it. Add this card from your drop area to your hand, and you can't activate the activate main skill on copies of this card for the turn. So kind of a similar thing, the Trunks and the Goten find each other. These ones get each other out of the drop, and then likewise the Eager goes and finds them out of the deck. So we're running a 3/3 line of Flash of Brilliance and the 4/4 line of the Eager. These are kind of interchangeable, different versions of this list. I've kind of flip-flopped, ran 3 of the Eager, 4 of the Flash of Brilliance. I haven't quite made up my mind yet. The more we get into testing, we'll really be able to kind of flesh that out. But the main selling point on all these is that they're all 15Ks, which is very important when we get into the Fusion package. All right, next up, we've got 2 of Vegeta Prideful Transformation. So it's a 3-drop, 1 yellow, 14K, blocker. Counterplay, and then you can't activate the counterplay skills of other cards for the turn. The battle card being played is played in rest mode, and then play this card. Permanent, if you have a yellow Unison card with 2 more markers in play, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying its energy cost. So this is a really nice effect. For nothing else, it's just a free blocker, but more importantly, it's able to basically crusher ball something that comes into play. So if there's a big threat that doesn't have barrier, deflect, or anything like that, you can drop this down, tap it down. You can get multiple of these out, just not in the same turn. This is our only counterplay in the deck, so we're not really worried about not being able to activate counterplay for the rest of the turn. So it's a really nice effect. He's solid. He costs 3, which we'll get into that in a little bit later. 14K is kind of a weird number. He can't really defend a whole ton, but he can pressure an unawakened leader, and if you get like the Gogeta out on turn 2, you can drop him on defense for free, and then apply pressure that way. All right, next up we have 4 Great 8 Bardock Raiders Warcry. Again, one of those cards I don't feel like we really need to explain. Everyone pretty much knows what it is and what it does. If you're running a yellow leader card, you probably have access to these. It's just really strong. You can use it offensively, you can use it defensively. It applies pressure. It taps things down, it draws cards. Tapping down is really important for things we're wanting to do in the deck already. So just all in all, just a really solid card. All right, next up into our actual Fusion package. And these, again, are similar to the Goten and the Trunks. These are a little bit interchangeable kind of depending on your preference. But first up, we've got Gotenks, the Power of Fusion. So it's a 4-drop, 1 yellow, double striker, Union Fusion for 2 yellow. And then whenever this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, KO it, and draw 1 card. And then activate main. Place this card at the bottom of its owner's deck, then add up to 1 yellow Sun Goten GT card and up to 1 yellow Trunks GT card from your drop area to your hand. So basically what this card does is he completely replaces himself. Obviously you're having to pitch 2 in order to fuse him and then him out of your hand, but then he draws you a card, and then after you do whatever you want him to do, then you put him at the bottom and get the 2 fusion pieces back, so he doesn't neg anything out of your hand. But he comes in and he pops things, and then he's a big double striker, 20k that can apply pressure, which is really, really nice. Next up, we have 3 Gotenks Overwhelming Might. So it's a 4-drop, 1 yellow, critical, Union Fusion for 2 yellow, and then auto whenever this card is played, choose up one of your opponent's battle card, negate its skills for the turn, then draw 1 card. And then he has the same activate main where you can put it at the bottom and get the 2 fusion pieces back to your hand. Again, these are kind of interchangeable. Right now we're going a 2-3 line. It can be switched to like a 3-2 or even like a 3-3, kind of depending on play preference and everything like that. But both of these, they're just great value because they're effectively free because they just replace each other in hand. And then finally, kind of the big bomb of the fusion engine is Gotenks going all out. So he is a 7-drop for 4 yellow. He is 25k double striker dual attack, Union Fusion for 3 yellow, and then draw 2 cards. And then auto whenever this card is played, choose one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier, negate its skills for the turn, then KO it. So again, kind of the big bomb. While he is missing being able to cycle him back to get the 2 fusion pieces, he does draw 2 cards. So he is actually technically a neg from hand, but he's a really strong effect. Whether you're just clearing the board with his KO ability and then him swinging twice with dual attack, you're potentially cleaning out a Unison card because you're dealing double strike, removing 2 markers at a time, or you're kind of pressuring in for game at 25k. Double strike is just really, really nice. And then next up, we're running 3 of the Bergamo Ferocious Roar. He's a 5-drop, 1 yellow, 20k, auto for a yellow and 1 other. When one of your opponent's battle cards is switched to rest mode by one of your skills, play this card from your hand. And then auto, if your leader card is a yellow or a Universe 9 card, whenever you play this card, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards and or energy, ignoring barrier, and switch them to rest mode. Now again, kind of as we talked about earlier, we're running several cards that tap things down from your opponent's side, which then allows you to play this Bergamo for super cheap. So for 2 for a 20k that taps 2 things down, including energy, is really, really powerful. Depending on how your opponent sequences things, you can really kind of stop their turn altogether, whether you're tapping down 2 of their battle cards or potentially 2 of their energy. Or on your side of the field, whenever on your turn you're playing this guy and you're tapping down 2 energy, preventing them from really having any kind of counterplay, negates, anything like that. Plus he costs 5, which is important for the next card that we're getting into, which is the Cell Xeno Unspeakable Abomination. So he's quadruple strike, ultimate, deflect, energy exhaust, auto. If you have 5 or more energy, whenever you play this card, choose up to 3 cards in your opponent's hand, place them in their drop area, and this card gains dual tag for the duration of the turn. So this is really kind of our big bomb of the deck. We have a lot of cards that come into play relatively cheap but have high energy costs, so we're able to successor relatively easily. Whether it's with the 7-drop Gotenks, you've got the Bergamos, you've got the Vegeta, you've got the Raiders Warcry, whatever it is. There's a lot of different cards that we can really get the successor out relatively early, especially if we get it out on turn 5, we can really just kind of really apply a lot of pressure. Finally, for our super combo, we're running 4 of the Zamasu Sacred Disbelief. So this is auto if your leader card is a blue or yellow. Whenever you combo with this card from your hand, choose up to one of your opponent's leader cards or battle cards and switch to rest mode. So again, kind of going with the theme of tapping stuff down. We had a little bit of a debate what would be the right super combo for this. Ultimately, a split may be better of 2 of this Zamasu and then maybe 2 of the just a strict yellow super combo that draws you a card. But I do like the versatility of being able to punish your opponent for whatever the reason is. You're able to out combo something, then tap something down, effectively get a negate off in the same turn, which is really, really nice. And then moving into our extra cards, we're running 4 Time Magic and then a 2 line of the Flying Nimbus. This is potentially interchangeable as well, depending on the meta and how it evolves. If this aggro black type decks with the Vegeks and things like that really get to this hype level, Flying Nimbus would probably be more of the 4 of as opposed to the Time Magic, the 2 of. But traditionally speaking, I like having the Time Magic, being able to just have like a straight hard negate that you can also just take a life for sparking and tap something down, which I think is nice. But having the versatility of keeping the Flying Nimbus is really nice as well. But like I said, those are interchangeable. A lot of the deck really is. We're still kind of feeling it out depending on how the meta develops. So right now the deck is sitting at about 56 cards, which does sound like a lot. But this deck theoretically should be cycling through cards regularly, and you could really kind of thin the deck. So I'm more comfortable running a bigger size deck than normal. Now, if you were to cut things down, you'd look at maybe cutting down to the negate, maybe only running 4 of one of the negates, maybe cut down maybe the Mechi Cabra, and then you could look at cutting things like maybe the Vegeta, so you could go like 2 Nimbus, 2 Vegeta, 2 Mechi Cabra to get you right down to that 50, which would be nice. Just kind of depending on how you feel it and everything like that. But anyway, guys, that is the list. Let us know what you think down below. Feel free to come and check out the stream, see how the deck pans out, see how it kind of evolves. We will be posting the deck list in the Discord, so feel free to check that out, and we will see y'all next time.